It's me again. I'm back. Hi, welcome to the archives. I'm going to do one more video that's tied to the previous videos on Candace Owens versus 20 Feminists. And the first one I talked about the workforce, right? The idea that it was because of feminists that women started working. That's not entirely true. That's part of the story, but not the whole story. So the first episode I talked about the role of women working before sorry, 1 second, I'm having a brain lapse. This was not planned, so I'm trying to figure out where to go with this. The second one I talked about because Candace Owens was blaming the sexual revolution for women devaluing themselves, and I talked about how the sexual revolution is actually, even though it's a modern phenomenon, women sexualizing themselves publicly is not new. We've had brothels, there's prostitutes in the Bible. Prostitutes is the politically correct term, is sex workers now, for those who don't know and who still use the word prostitute. I just want to also talk about, again, I'm not sure the statistics on this, but I've seen, again, go fact check on your own, but I've heard that married men actually do better, right? And no shit, you have somebody taking care of you, feeding you, packing your lunch to work. So married men, yes, they do better, but I don't know if married women actually do better. Candace Owens says yes. For me, empirically, from what I see, married women are not doing better. They're more stressed. A lot of them are still married and are still single. So I know I was raised by a married woman who's always been married. My parents have always been married. But there have been times where my mom was still a single mom, right? Because they did long distance, and for whatever reason, it's not a secret, we know this. She was still a single mom raising us during high school years, my university years. A lot of family members like that. There are a lot of married women who I know are still single mothers. So being married does not always ensure that you will be taken care of. I didn't hear her say that. Candace Owens did not talk about the married women who are still single mothers. And I'm not making that up. I was raised by one. Right? She herself says she was raised by her grandparents. I don't know what the history is because I try not to really go down the Candace Owens rabbit hole, but I wish they would have talked about that. You can be married and still a single mother, and not only and then you can still be married and be parenting your children and also parenting your husband. She didn't talk about that. Tell the whole truth, full truth, right? You can be married and still a single mother, and not only just a single mother, but you're also raising a grown-ass man. So she says that married women do better. I don't know. Marriage is where a lot of women go to die, and that's not hyperbole. That is factually statistics, right? They talked about it in the episode. I think it's like 80% of women will experience some sort of physical violence, right? The most dangerous time for a woman is when she leaves. That's when she's most likely to be killed by her partner. So marriage does not always guarantee happiness. Of course, anti-feminists need to tell you that it does, because that fits their argument. But if they were to tell you the whole truth, they would tell you that marriage is not always a happy thing for a lot of women. In fact, it ends in death. Again, the idea that sexual liberation has devalued women. I've been celibate for over a decade. I had not had sex with another human being since December 1st, 2012, right? During my celibacy is when I've been the most devalued by men. Men had way more respect for me when I was actually sexually active. And again, recently I was talking to my cousin, I realized that I didn't have sex until I was 22. 2007 was the first time. Not to put all my business out on the street, but again, it's not a secret. I'm a sexual health educator, so I don't have shame around that, right? It would be something I would share in my workshops. I didn't have sex for the first time until I was 22, by choice, with my consent, until I was 22 years old. And then I only had sex for 5 years because I stopped having sex in 2012. So that was 2007, 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12. So I've only had 6 years. In my 40 years of life, 5 years. I've only had sex for 5 years. And this is not a flex. Trust me, it's not a flex. Okay? I wish I was more of a hoe. Especially because I advocate and I'm sex positive. It's just the way my life has worked out. I have trust issues. I just childhood sexual survivor. It's just right. I need emotions and intimacy for whatever reason. I've only had sex for 5 years of my life. I'm a feminist. I'm more of a womanist, black feminist. But Candace's claim would be because I'm a feminist, I've devalued myself. How? I've had less than 10 sexual partners in my entire life. I think I've had like 6 or 7. That's like 1 a year. Less than 1 a year for the times. 5 years of my life. I'm 40 years old. I haven't had sex in almost 13 years. In these 13 years was when I experienced the worst abuse of my life, the worst manipulation of my life, and the most disrespect from men. That had nothing to do with me being sexual. More times I'm not sexualizing myself. That has nothing to do. It's a very dangerous argument of when a woman gets raped and we ask what was she wearing. It's victim blaming. That's not women devaluing. This had nothing to do with devaluing yourself. If anything, I think you value, girl. They love themselves. Girls online who can do that. Do you know how much confidence and courage it takes to get on the internet? They don't realize that. A lot of us are body insecure. We're very insecure. A lot of us are very, very insecure. We could not do that. You could not do that. Candace Owens could not have an OnlyFans if she wanted to. Because it takes a lot of confidence. You have to be very brave to do that. We don't got that juice. And then when I hate on them, they love themselves. A lot of these girls love themselves. They love themselves enough to be making their own money because they know they can't rely on nobody. They love themselves to know enough that this is an inside job. I can't leave this to anybody else to do this. No man will take care of me the way in which I can take care of myself. So I just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to come back and say that, right? The worst disrespect I've ever had from men is when I was celibate. I just recently had a crush on an old friend, and I was like, listen, he respected me more when I was sexually active and doing men dirty than now that I'm a respectable woman who's not having sex, who dresses like this. He has less respect for me now than he did then. Times have changed. Men really just don't be out here respecting women like that. And it has nothing to do with what we're wearing or if we're shaking our ass. You just don't value women, period. It's called misogyny. They don't like women, period. They hate women. A lot of men hate women. That has nothing to do with what they're wearing or whether they're being sexual online or not. You can tell girls that. Again, remember, shame is a form of control. That shame is meant to keep you hidden. That shame is meant to keep you modest. But you don't have to shame women to get your message across. You are valuable regardless of what you wear. You have value. You have worth. And your worth is not tied to whether you're married, whether you have children. You're a human. You were born. God created you. If we're going to use the conservative language, you are here right now in this time. You have value, point blank, period, because you are a human being that deserves to be treated as a human being. Not as a degenerate because you're a woman or a girl or a vulva-bodied person or even a trans woman, right? Stop blaming girls for how men treat them. That's not my issue. You don't value me. And then she's like, oh, women hate women too, because you can tell. Yes, girl, women also hate women. Wow, congratulations, you came to that awareness. It is also rooted deeply in misogyny. We all hate women. None of us are really rooting for women the way in which we should. Even the feminists. Some of the worst harms I've had are from people who call themselves feminists. I call myself a feminist, and the way I talk about some women is trash. We have to keep it real. A lot of us have grew up with girl hate. There's an internalized misogyny that we also have as well too. So again, I'm not going to hold Candace when she's like, a lot of women don't like women. You're right. And again, why is that? Because none of us are raised to value women. especially not Christians, especially not conservatives. When you're raised to think that a woman came from a man's rib and she's lesser and she's lesser and she's lesser and she's lesser, the messaging is you're lesser. When you're raised as a girl and you're not supposed to be doing certain things, you're not supposed to be playing sports, right? My brothers could play soccer, they could go play football, but I can't play rugby. Tell me I can't play rugby. Watch me go play rugby. I've always been that girl. I still say I'm my father's first son. No disrespect to my brothers, and they know it. They cannot carry a lot of the shit I carry. They'll go running to my mom. Yes, I absolutely will fall to my knees and run to my mom, but like I figure I handle my shit, even when I can't. Right? The government handles my shit oftentimes. That's neither here nor there. But like, a lot of us are masculine because we had no choice but to. The masculine figures were masculining. The masculine figures weren't doing their masculine thing. So we had to pick up the slack. I'm an eldest daughter. I didn't have a choice but to be independent. My father didn't pay my school fees. You think my dad paid my school fees? No. Pay my groceries? My father didn't pay my rent. One time I asked, and that was a power struggle to get that money to pay my rent. I had to do this on my own. And when I wasn't, it was women who held me up, not men. It was women. My mother, my aunties, my cousins, my friends. It was not men. So when you guys are pointing at women being, oh, she's masculine, she thinks shit. Well, you think we did this because we chose to? You think I just want to hustle and struggle just because I like it? Nah, it's because I don't have a man to fall back on. Yes. They didn't talk about privilege or class. I didn't hear she didn't want to talk about race. Candace flat out said, I'm not talking about race. But race needed to be in that conversation. Because again, enslaved women been working and taking care of everybody's kids. Clock that. Class needed to be mentioned. There's just intersectionality was not in the room. No offense to the feminists there, but there's not a whole lot. Priscilla, I love Priscilla's take. But like there's not a whole lot of intersectionality in the room. They tried, right? They did try. They didn't define matriarchy. Again, I come from a matrilineal society, so I could tell you we do not live in a matriarchy. As somebody who comes from, my people are matrilineal, things are supposed to be passed down through the woman, the mother. We don't live in a matriarchy. You take your husband's name. That in itself is not matriarchy. When you get married, you take the man's name. How is that matriarchy? You're not taking the woman's name. Privilege, right? She didn't talk about her privilege. To be able to, the hypocrisy, they called her out on it. You work from home. Talk more about that. That's a luxury. That's a lifestyle. Again, the trad wives. If I could get a man to take care of me and I could stay at home, you think I'd be working? In this racist ass environment where they're actively kicking black women out of the workforce, you think I want to be there? I'm not even a corporate girl. Nonprofit is pissing me off. I'm not gonna, if you want to pay for me while I stay at home, by all means. By all means. I'm still saving the money for a rainy day when I gotta leave you if and when I have to. But like, she didn't talk about that. You're obviously gonna be a little bit happier if you don't have to be hustling and grinding. If you can rest, you're also gonna be healthier. But then also you might be idle. You might actually pick up some habits as well too. Right? You don't think housewives are smoking weed? You don't think housewives are doing cocaine? You don't think housewives are doing shrooms? Girl, keep it real. She's not keeping a buck with you. She's lying. A lot of these girls are doing cocaine. Okay? No disrespect, no shade. Right? We do harm reduction around here. But just keep it 100. They drink wine every day of the week because they need to. Housewives aren't addicts? Stop lying. Privilege, no one mentions. Oh, they're talking about the Scandinavian women, and somebody did. Thank you for bringing up the Scandinavian countries like Finland and Denmark and Sweden, how they're happier. But again, they're happier because right now they're still majority white. It's like Israel, right? Where a lot of social services are paid for because it's an ethno state. White people don't mind catering to other white people. It's when the immigrants come in and they start have to giving them the handouts that they don't like. But white people be giving each other handouts. They don't mind. She's like, oh, free education, free childcare. Go look at Europe. White people don't mind taking care of their own. It's now when you have black people in the mix. Now I'm supposed to pay you for mat leave? No. You're black. I'm not doing that for you. Talk about it. The reason when we talk about Scandinavian countries, please talk about how it's because it's primarily ethno states. It's majority white. The more immigrants they have, I bet you they will start rethinking the amount of things they give people. And then they do have higher taxes, right? Because a lot of this is taxed. And one of the men tried to bring that up. It's taxes that pays for this. So the taxes will be higher, yes. But the standard of living will also be very different. You don't want your country to have a good quality of life. That's for sure going to help your GDP. Having educated people is a great thing, but not if you want to control them. Now if you live in an oligarch state. The issue with trad wives is they still work. They talked about that, right? Trad wives are still, the online trad wives, they're still working. You're still a content creator. You're an influencer. You're still making money. You're still working. You just work from home. And since COVID, work from home has become more popular. But again, when the disabled folks were asking to work from home, it was not popular. So when work from home is from a disability lens, it's like, oh, cringe. But when the trad wife is working from home, when the artist is working from home, we're like, oh yeah. Feminism is about choice and options. They mentioned that, right? Give people the choice. Give people the option. Stop trying to control it. But conservatives love to control people. It's all about control. All about control. I need to control your body. I need to control your emotions. I need to control. You're not God. Stop playing God. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to add. That's pretty much it for me on that episode. I just had to get some things off my chest. You could be as modest as you want. People will still devalue you. People will still talk shit about you. People will still hate you. And it has nothing to do, it's because you're a woman. It's because you're a woman, right? Women hate other women. Yeah, so that's all for me. I'm done. I'm not coming back on this topic. I said, give it a rest. I'm going to let it go. Okay, until next time, in solidarity. Or not. You have the choice. Bye.